निरञ्जनं नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमिड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामि। जननीं शारदां देवीं रामकृष्णं जगद्गुरुं पादपद्मे तयो श्रुत्वा प्रणमामि मुहुर्मुहुः। नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चिद्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। So now we will continue with our study of Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. So in the last class, we were studying that portion of the first chapter which deals with the idea that knowledge is inherent in man. That no knowledge comes from outside. All the knowledge is in the human mind. The external world is just a suggestion. All the events, all the occasions of perceptions, whether it is to the eyes or ears or nose or tongue or touch, through all these five perceptions, whatever we are having as information. The word information itself is very interesting. The word information, if you break it, it becomes information. So we have an idea that the information comes from outside. But actually what is happening is information. Outside world is just an external suggestion. The thing which we are perceiving is actually formed within, which we were discussing elaborately in the last class. And all the ideas which are already there, the external suggestions acts as the occasion by which what we are doing, we are constantly, what we are doing is rearranging our already available fund of experiences to have more and more evolved responses. And the way we respond to the suggestions, to the stimuli of the external world is which constitutes our character. So that's the idea with which Swamiji is gradually developing the idea of karma. So let us proceed to the next section today. First we will read the paragraph and then we will go for the further explanation. There are certain works which are, as it were, the aggregate, the sum total of a large number of smaller works. If we stand near the seashore and hear the waves dashing against the shingle, we think it is such a great noise, and yet we know that one wave is really composed of millions and millions of minute waves. Each one of these is making a noise, and yet we do not catch it. It is only when they become a big aggregate that we hear. Similarly, every pulsation of the heart is work. Certain kinds of work we feel and they become tangible to us. They are at the same time the aggregate of a number of small works. If you really want to judge the character of a man, look not at his great performances. Every fool may become a hero at one time or another. Watch a man do his most common actions. Those are indeed the things which will tell you the real character of a great man. Great occasions rouse even the lowest of human beings to some kind of greatness, but he alone is really great, whose character is great always, the same wherever he be. So this is an idea which Swami Vivekananda, again we will just indicate, it is his referring to the scriptures. In Yoga Sutra, the idea of karma, karmashaya, vasana, all those are there. We won't enter into that technical terms, but the general idea which is there is very important. What is the idea? That how our character is formed, that it's not the impulsive action at certain moment of challenges in life which actually determines our character. Anyone may act in some great way at certain occasion, but the real character of a man is actually formed by the day-to-day small details of actions which he is performing. All the insignificant actions he is doing in his day-to-day life, how he is doing, how perfectly he is doing. Those repeated small actions in long term makes up his character. When Swami Vivekananda, that's why in spiritual life, to be very perfect in our actions, to do everything meticulously, perfectly is a sign of spirituality. Sometimes we think the other way, that the more we grow spiritual, the more we become otherworldly, we can not take care of our day-to-day activities. That's actually a very wrong notion. When we are developing our spirituality, our mind becomes so focused that whatever action we are doing, our entire focus goes there in that action and we do it perfectly, and that has some spiritual implications. When I will just cite a few examples to explain this, to elaborate this idea. When Swami Vivekananda as a parivrajaka, as a wandering monk, was going around the various places of India, at one time he was in Ghazipur where he met the famous saint Pawhari Baba. Now Pawhari Baba was a very well-renowned saint, and Swami Vivekananda was highly inspired by him and wanted to spend some days, not days, about a month, more than a month, he wanted to be with him. So he was watching him. He was staying there in Ghazipur near Pawhari Baba, and he was watching him regularly. Because as Sri Ramakrishna have already taught them, what's the thing? That sadhuke dine dekhbi, rate dekhbi, tobe sadhuke sadhu bole janbi. That if you really have to judge a holy person, see him for all the 24 hours, in the day in, day out. And then only you can judge him to be a real holy person. So now that's why Swami Vivekananda, and that's the tradition everywhere, that if you have to have some inspiration from a holy person, try to be in his presence as much as possible. Now when Swami Vivekananda was staying with him, something struck him very much. What's the thing? That he saw that Pawhari Baba, of course, he had his own spiritual rigmarole, his meditation. He every day used to perform yajna, homa. It was a quite elaborate ritual. And after that, the one thing which perplexed him, he used to clean all the utensils which he have used for the ritualistic worship very, very meticulously. He will polish them, make them shine. He will take a lot of time for doing that. Now, Swami Vivekananda one day asked that you are such a spiritually evolved soul. How come you are involved in such trivial jobs and you're spending so much time in it? The reply of Pawhari Baba was something very, very significant. What he replied, his reply was, Jan Sadhan Tan Siddhi. Jan Sadhan Tan Siddhi. What does it mean? that whatever is your sadhana, at a particular time, whatever is your endeavor, as per the responsibilities of life, as per our this present state of existence, whatever I am doing at present, the thing which I am doing at present, let me do it with an idea that my aim in life is to do that perfectly. I forget all other ideal. Jan sadhan, whatever is my sadhana, tan siddhi. That alone is the thing which is going to give me siddhi. That's as if the final, my aim in life is to do that thing perfectly. Forget about all other goals. As if you remember in the first introductory class, we told that once the goal has been set, now forget about the goal. Now meticulously we have to take care of each and every step. The same idea is here, jan sadhan tan siddhi. Each and every action has to be done so meticulously. At that time you have as if no other goal. That's the only thing you have to do. The biggest problem with all of the so-called spiritual aspirants is what you all will agree. The main challenge is we think that spiritual life and secular life are two separate, are separated by watertight compartment. They're totally segregated. One cannot as if intermingle with the other. And throughout the day, we find that in our psyche, as in our mental level, the constant clash is going on. What's the clash? Oh, so much time is spent in so many distractions. I don't get sufficient time for my spiritual practice. And instead of progressing in spiritual life, we find that my little inclination for the spiritual life has made my life a havoc. I'm throughout the day constantly blaming the circumstances, saying, oh, the situation is such, I cannot give time for my spiritual practice. The relations, the people are such, they're so distracting. Here we find what Pabhari Baba is saying is very interesting in this context, that at a particular time, whatever is my responsibility, the person with whom I'm dealing, let me consider him to be the most important person, as if God has incarnated in that form in front of me. However challenging he may be, let me take that God is here to test me in this way. Whatever responsibility I have, if I'm cooking, let me do it with full perfection, because after all, someone will be feeding, someone will be fed with that food, and he is my God. I'm brooming the floor, as if God is going to walk on that floor. I may not be seeing, it is He who is present everywhere. I'm clean, I keep it so meticulously clean. Maybe that's one of the corners of my room, of my house where no one goes, but I keep it clean. So everything I'm doing with a full attention, as in the last class we were saying, that we have control over the present, we have no control over the past or the future. The past, we cannot undo what has been done. The future, what is waiting there, we don't know. But the paradox of life is most of the time we are wasting either repenting about the past or anticipating about the future, of which we have no control. The present is in our hand. If I do the thing perfectly in the present moment, that itself becomes a meditation. Forget about God. That just when you are doing the thing which I have in my hand, if I do with a full attention, all the distractions has fallen off. My mind is focused, and you will find it is so. It just helps us to get rid of the so-called the bundles of worries and tensions which we are always carrying. Our condition, when through any this focus, sometimes you will find you are very highly relieved. If you do a work with full focus, after the work you find highly relieved. You know why it happens? Most probably you were not thinking of God. You were cooking with full attention, and that gives you a tremendous sense of relaxation. Why it happens? Because most of the time we are carrying our backpack, huge backpack. Now we got so much habituated with it, sometimes we don't feel the weight of it, but we realize a great relaxation the moment we keep it down. Suppose you are just hiking, you went for a mountaineering and the backpack is there always with you. And for some time, just for a short time, you sit down and keep just your bag aside, and you feel tremendously relaxed. That's what happens whenever we are focused. In the default mode, all the thoughts which we have nurtured, they are they are all like the pampered child. They all want my attention. I've already pampered them. My I with my ego, like the grand and the nanny sitting, and all those mental modules, all those various modules which I have nourished at certain point of time, they're like the grandchildren. They all want the attention. They're constantly pampering me. And everyone wants to get my attention. And that's why I'm so disturbed. So now whenever I'm focused, what I'm doing, just with ekavritti, one thought, I am dealing. I just ignore. They all fall off. All other distractions falls off. And then the mind, the bundle which you are carrying for the time being as if has been kept aside. And that gives you the relaxation. So when we think of meditation, what happens throughout the day, we were distracted and suddenly we think in the evening, I will have to sit for meditation. And what happens most of the time? We find that it is impossible to sit for meditation. The mind is so agitated, I'm almost thrown out of meditation. I try to force my mind for concentration, it never happens. Why it happens? Because throughout the day, my mind was disturbed. I've never prepared my mind. And now suddenly I sit and I think that it will get focused. It never happens. If I would have done all my actions with full attention, the mind already would have got sufficient chance, scope for developing that ekavritti, that focused state of existence. And then the meditation, you have already prepared yourself for the meditation. Then the meditation becomes fruitful. Very interesting. That's why this every action to be done meticulously, perfectly is a big sadhana. When the people used to throng, when Ramakrishna's name was publicized by Keshav Chandra Sen, the Brahmo Samaj Keshav, he publicized in his journals. People started thronging in at Dakshineshwar to visit Ramakrishna for getting some spiritual instructions. We will find it interesting. Whenever a new person is to come, Ramakrishna will make him sit in his room and he himself will go out. You know, the thing is very interesting. He will go out just to see how he has kept his shoes, the umbrella, the bag which is carrying, all those things, how he has kept. If he found that all the things are scattered around, one shoe is in one corner of the portico, and the another in another corner, the umbrella is just thrown aside. He will come inside the room and say that person, see, Rani Rashmani has made such a beautiful, this garden, temple garden. There's so many temples, so nice architecture. And then not only that, you go out, there are so many beautiful gardens out there. Then the Ganga is flowing by. It's a nice scenic place. You please go and just have a look. He will never instruct that person in the spiritual way of living. He will never. Because according to him, unless one has gathered his mind, and which can be easily found out by the way he has kept these small things. By that he would easily understand his state of mind. Once he understood that, he will come if he finds that the person is really having a very clean mind, has a way of keeping the things nicely that actually proves that his mind is also very much regularized, controlled, streamlined. Then he will just come and give his spiritual instructions, otherwise not. So these small things which we do in our life, gradually which we are doing again and again, meticulously, that actually helps us to form our character. So that's a very important thing. To give a common example, that you know that how our destiny is formed, there are two things. Just take a small child. The small child is not studying. He's restless by nature. It's very obvious. The small child, it's very restless. It has no interest for the studies. Now the parents somehow try to make him aware of the fact that how studies can actually change his course of life. His destiny can be created by the simple habit of studying. And by constantly asking the child to study, gradually the child, by repetitive practice, after some time develops the habit of studying. And now the parents need not bother because he has developed the love for it. The neuroplasticity has ensured. He or she just finds that studying is something very interesting. Now, this helps in two ways. In the school, in his education, if his grades are improved because of liking of his study, that's improved. That's a direct implication of his karma. Now, it's not just before the exam. Throughout the year, he's studying, and naturally, it's reflected in his performance, in his or her performance. And that's the thing which we find is directly implied by the karma. But there is another thing, another interesting thing. That is, because of his or her good grades in the 12th standard exam, now he or she is entitled, is eligible to get admission to, say, the medical college. Now, the entire medical college is very interesting. It's not the result of that student's karma. It was already there. It's the collective effort of the entire society. So karma has two effects. One effect is in the individual level, I am developing a liking for it, sanskara for it. I do the thing which I like again and again. And another, as per my sanskara, there is something already built by the conscious effort of the collective effort of the all, the samashti. It's already there. The medical college is already there. I myself gravitate towards it. I get the sufficient grade to get admitted. And just that medical college was there. I never created it. I just go there, I get admitted, I get all the facilities which at last will entitle me to be a student there and become a doctor. So these two things. So one is by the small actions, gradually I'm developing sanskara. That is something very personal, of which I have the total control over it. The another is something cosmic. I am gravitated to a circumstance where I find my sanskara will be fruitful, will be fulfilled. So these are the two aspects of karma which happens when I am doing the thing meticulously, little by little. I'm not thinking of the future. If I think that I have to be a doctor or an engineer, but I don't study, that won't help. But I am continuing with my studies. I've developed the liking for it. Naturally, the grades are there. And then I find myself all placed there. I am gravitated. As per my sanskara, I am gravitated to the circumstances which will fulfill my actions. So that's the thing. Gradually, the idea will be developed here. Let us go to the next paragraph. We'll find that this idea is gradually being developed by Swamiji. Karma, in its effect on character, is the most tremendous power that man has to deal with. Man is, as it were, a center and is attracting all the powers of the universe towards himself. And in this center is fusing them all and again sending them off in a big current. Such a center is the real man, the Almighty, the Omniscient, and he draws the whole universe towards him, good and bad, misery and happiness, all are running towards him and clinging round him. And out of them he fashions the mighty stream of tendency called character and throws it outwards. As he has the power of drawing in anything, so has he the power of throwing it out. It's a very interesting thing. There's two things: stimuli, whatever I'm gathering in, that alone doesn't constitute the karma. That some generally what we think of karma is that, oh, as per my past actions, all the experiences which I am having at present is my karma. But that alone is not the karma. How I am responding to it, that I am gathering in and what I'm throwing out, that's what is being called as the character. That that the word responsible, is something, again, very significant, that we are responsible. No other creature is responsible creature. They are guided by the impulse. We are responsible. Means responsible is responsible. The ability to respond. I have the choice how I will respond. No other creature have that capacity. They are simply guided by their impulse, by their instinct. But as a human being, I have the ability to respond in the way which I find is beneficial for me. That is responsibility. But there's a nice Vedantic story which speaks of what our character is. The same circumstance in life can result in different response as per my disposition, as per my bias, as per my likings and dislikings. The story, that Vedantic simile is very interesting. That in a corner, suppose in a park, in one end, where the area is a bit bushy, and there is a stump. A tree has been cut, it has died, it has been cut, but the stump is still there. In the twilight hours, when many people are there from a distance, a thief sees it and thinks it to be the police. The police, it is a story from a Vedantic tells. The police from a distance who is in search of the thief sees the same stump and thinks it to be the thief. The lover thinks it to be the beloved. The child who is in search of his parents thinks it to be the parent. The parent who is in search of the child went out to play and now it's time to go back from a distance. The parent looks at the stump and thinks it to be their child. So as per our mental bias, as per our disposition, the same stump is appearing as so many things. So there comes the significance of the term character. The stimuli may be same, but how I am responding to it, that actually speaks of my character. So we are constantly gathering in all the things, and accordingly we are throwing out. What we are throwing out, that's the thing which constitutes our character, which we have developed. That what we are throwing out is not something which can do it just today as per my choice, as per my tendencies, which I have developed through a course of time by my all small actions. That determines what is going to be my response. And that story, one story most probably that in one question answer session in the first class we were indicating that a person was baffled by life because of so many mishappenings. And he went to a monk to relate all the tragedies of his life. And he was blaming the circumstances, that in life, all the relations, all the circumstances were not in favor of him. The monk never replied. What he did, he just took the person to the backyard of his monastery. And the backyard, it was a quite big backyard, which was fenced by the maple trees. And he told this map, when he purchased this property, when this property was purchased for the ashrama, the previous owner, instead of using separate stumps, he has planted the maple trees just on the boundary, and he has nailed the barbed wire on it to make the fence. So that's how the fencing is there. Now the trees have grown. I will show you some interesting thing. What is this interesting thing? He took him to one of the tree, which he found the trunk is, the growth of the trunk is very crooked. It has many turns. The monk then just explained. What he explained? See, this tree never accepted the fact. What's the fact? That something has been nailed, a barbed wire has been nailed to its trunk, and throughout the life it is revolting. It is revolting, it wants to get rid of it, and it cannot get rid of it. And this constant revolt against the circumstances which cannot be changed has resulted in the crooked growth. So many curves are there. The tree couldn't grow straight. And then the monk took that person to another tree where the tree is straight, and just through the core of the trunk, the barbed wire has passed through, and the tree is straight. Now, very interesting, he saw the same situation. This tree knew that I can never get rid of the situation. It is going to be with me. I have to accept it. I internalize the pain. I accept it. I don't just reward. There are situations in life which cannot be changed. There are situations which can be changed. Yes, there are occasions. Then, of course, we should try to for a better circumstance. But 99% of the cases, you will find that we are cornered. Life has just placed us in a situation where we have no other alternative. Then what's the solution? If you cannot change the situation, bend your attitude. Sri Ramakrishna used to say a very interesting thing. He never studied in school. So he had his own grammar, which is not available in any textbook. What is his grammar? In any of the Indian languages, you will find there are 3 S. One S, when you just touch your tongue with your teeth, that is a bit blunt sound, sir. And another, when the middle of your tongue touches the palate of your this mouth, a hissing sound comes out, sh. And when you roll the tongue and touch your palate, then another type of sound comes, sh. So these 3 types of sh are there. Talivasya, Madhyanasya, Dantasya. So we know that these Indian languages, there is a subtle difference between this pronunciation of S. Now, why there are 3 S? Ramakrishna had his own grammar. So Ramakrishna used to say, Sha, Sha, Sha. Je, Shoy, She, Roy. Je, Na, Shoy, She, Na, Shoy. He had a wonderful capacity to play pun with words. And very interesting thing he's saying. You know why there are 3 Sha in all the Indian languages? Because 3 Sha means Sha, Sha, Sha. In Hindi, it means Saha, means Sahana, to forbear. Shojja kara, to forbear, Sahana. That's what it is stressing that in life we should have the capacity to bear with the situation, to forbear. Je shoy, she roy. See how nicely it's playing pun with the word. The one who has the capacity to forbear, he can just maintain his integrity. Je shoy, she roy. Je na shoy. The one who cannot bear, who very quickly reacts to the situation, tar nash hoy. He gets destroyed. He gets disintegrated. How nicely he's playing pun with the words to just bring out the message. You will find in our life what happens most of the time, as we are yet to gather the experiences, we find that we are as if we are getting fried in a frying pan. And we try to jump out and we fall in the oven, and the situation becomes more, horrible, more tormenting. So this forbearance is a big capacity. Why we are just speaking of all these things to explain this paragraph, that through the gradual experiences of life, the one who was extremely reacting now knows, no, let me be a bit patient. Let me deal with the situation with much more forbearingly. Let me not just think of an easy, quick fix solution. Let me go with it. His nature changes. The same stimuli now will create a different response, and you will find an altogether different person. So that's the thing, is very important in developing our character. So that's the thing which Swamiji is actually indicating here. So the next paragraph, let us go. All the actions that we see in the world, all the movements in human society, all the works that we have around us are simply the display of thought, the manifestation of the will of man. Machines or instruments, cities, ships, or men of war, all these are simply the manifestation of the will of man. And this will is caused by character, and character is manufactured by karma. As is karma, so is the manifestation of the will. The men of mighty will the world has produced have all been tremendous workers, gigantic souls with wills powerful enough to overturn worlds. Wills they got by persistent work through ages and ages. Such a gigantic will as that of a Buddha or a Jesus could not be obtained in one life, for we know who their fathers were. It is not known that their fathers ever spoke a word for the good of mankind. Millions and millions of carpenters like Joseph had gone, millions are still living, millions and millions of petty kings like Buddha's father had been in the world. If it was only a case of hereditary transmission, how do you account for the petty prince who was not perhaps obeyed by his own servants, producing this son whom half the world worships? How do you explain the gulf between the carpenter and his son, whom millions of human beings worship as God? It cannot be solved by the theory of heredity. By the theory of heredity. The gigantic will which Buddha and Jesus threw over the world, whence did it come? Whence came this accumulation of power? It must have been there through ages and ages, continually growing bigger and bigger, until it burst on society in a Buddha or a Jesus, even rolling down to the present day. The Swami Vivekananda is very interesting. He was not only a well-versed in our scriptures, he was also quite educated about the modern, in the contemporary fields of academic education like history, psychology, philosophy. He was a very, intelligent student in all those subjects. He was very much aware of all the new psychological theories, philosophical theories that were prevalent in those days. When Swamiji is speaking of this paragraph, you will find that in the modern day, even in the present day, we find that we give so much importance to the theory of heredity. Here Swamiji is saying something that it's not heredity which can define everything. Something else is there. It's very interesting, very interesting. Actually, a lot of ideas is there in the background when Swamiji is speaking all those things. When Swamiji went to the West, in those days, in the Western world, the philosophy which was very, very prevalent, all were accepting it something great, was that of Nietzsche, the German philosopher Nietzsche. Now, his philosophy is something, is thought to be the main philosophy which actually was breaking the pillars of Christianity. Now, what Nietzsche was speaking of? Now, Nietzsche was referring to Darwin's theory of evolution. There we find that what is being indicated, that the genes are transmitted to the offsprings, and now there is a variation. It's not that all the offsprings are the same. So there is then the struggle for existence. The one who copes with the environment in a better way, they alone exist. Others are just simply effaced out. This struggle for existence, survival of the fittest. And the struggle comes how? That yes, all the offsprings are not same. There are many offsprings. And based on this idea, very interesting thing, we find that Nietzsche is developing a philosophy. That really proved to be a highly fatalistic philosophy in future. In those days, the world was just up to it. They thought this is something, a wonderful philosophy. But later, just 50 years later, the implications were really something disastrous. If you read Swamiji between the lines, you will find wonderful. When he was going around Europe on his way back to India, In those days, the Europe was flourishing. So much prosperous nations. All his disciples were just bragging in front of him. See what civilizations we have built. Swami Vivekananda again and again repeatedly saying, what I see is the entire Europe is sitting on a volcano. And just a few decades later, after passing away of Swamiji, we find 2 world wars. Why actually Swamiji is saying all those things? What he has seen. He saw that the Nietzsche's philosophy was actually meant for philosophizing of all the things which were happening in the Western world in those days as correct. They were moving out, especially you will find that all the European countries were moving out. They were having colonies. They were just having their own colonies, and there was a tremendous competition for the colonies. In this background, the Nietzsche's philosophy comes into picture. That also based on Darwin. The more evolved you are, the more is your chance of survival. The others are exploited. They're rooted out, and that is obvious. It's very natural. And Nietzsche was saying that in your religion also you speak of evolution, but that is as if there's a logos, there's a purpose behind it. God has really planned that way, designed that way. Nietzsche is just totally negating that and saying, if you have to see, don't look towards God. See the history. You will find the Greek, the Roman, they were at the top of the civilization. Why? Because they had that tremendous ambition. They had that tremendous power, skill. With that, they got rid of all their enemies, and they were the one who once ruled the world. Very interesting. Swami Vivekananda, when he went to the West, in one of his lectures in Chicago itself, is saying that where are the Greeks, where are the Romans? Just go and see where they had their palaces. Now the spiders are just building the cobwebs there. Everything is gone. If that is the sign of evolution, they were supposed to be existing now also. What has happened to them? So at the very beginning, you will find Swamiji is finding that there is some flaw in that theory. And now, as time will come, we will have a lot of scope to discuss on it. You know, the Darwin's theory is not the theory of evolution, which in the present day is thought to be the ultimate. You have heard of the word synergy, win-win. It's not by competition, it is by cooperation that the evolution has happened. Those who have cooperated, they have evolved. And that's the thing Swamiji was speaking of. It's the cooperation. It's the how much we relate to the others. With that, that actually determines the evolution. So what actually is being spoken of here in this paragraph, you know, in biology, they speak of recapitulation theory, that evolution has happened. That evolution has happened. What's the proof? The proof is you see the development of the embryo, how the embryo is developing. And from that, you will find the evolution has happened. To just give a specific example, as a human being, when we were in our mother's womb, it took 9 months to evolve from a single cellular organism. We all started as a single cellular organism in mother's womb, and it took 9 months. In 9 months, one became a full human being. This baby is formed in the mother's womb in 9 months. In 9 months, a wonderful thing has happened. If you study the embryology, you will find at one point of time we had tail. The tail has fallen off. Our heart was first 2-chambered, then it was 3-chambered, then it became 4-chambered. So it is actually gradually evolving from the lower form of organism to the higher form of organism. We had fins like the fish. Then it became lungs. We were cold-blooded. Then gradually we became warm-blooded. All the things you will find the gradual evolution in 9 months, it's happening in the mother's womb. And what it has to do with the evolution? They say that what has happened in nature, that is as if rebooted in the mother's womb very quickly. You know, when you on the computer, it's not like the bulb which gets switched on. You just on it, the bulb gets on. The computer doesn't get on that way. The moment you switch on the computer, all the softwares and the programs which has been loaded into it, one will be kicking off the other will be kicking off the other. That is called booting. And that way it takes some time for the computer to get on. Now, when you were installing the software, it took hours. But that booting happens in just a few minutes, not even a minute. In a few seconds, most probably within a minute. In some 40, 50 seconds, the computer is on. But while you were loading it, it took so much time. So the theory of evolution is proven by the recapitulation theory. How? That all the evolution, what has happened for millions of years in the mother's womb, it has happened in 9 months. And that proves that we are more evolved than the other creatures. So it's not denied. It's not denied when Swamiji is saying that when Jesus was born to Joseph or Buddha was born to a king, that doesn't deny that recapitulation, but does it prove everything? No. There is another recapitulation which happens, which you also will understand. Just see, in the mental level, in the intellectual level, another recapitulation happens. All the scientific discoveries, all our achievements in the literature, which took thousands of years, all the literature, all the scientific discovery, which as a human being we evolved through our civilization, it took thousands of years to have that fund of knowledge. A small child enters the school. By the time he has completed the schooling, the 12th standard, in 15, 16 years, he has acquired that knowledge which the humanity has taken some thousands of years or hundreds of years to evolve there. So that is not the biological evolution. That's the thing as per our temperament, as per my intelligence, how quickly I can just go through I can recapitulate all those human development. So that doesn't speak of the heredity. So a soul like Jesus, a Buddha, they were evolving as if we take them to be the human being like us. They were evolving through lives as if, because you will find there are Jataka stories through which the Buddha was evolving. Through all those experiences, he was evolving. Now as a human, in this human birth, now he takes a quantum jump. How? He has now developed a tremendous yearning to have the spiritual knowledge. He leaves his home. He meets so many spiritual teachers who actually, from whom he learns, he gets that fund of knowledge by which that intellectual evolution happens, and that takes him to that further realization. So these two things, the circumstance in which we are born as per our heredity is not all. After that, the intellect, there's a tremendous fund of knowledge which we have as per the development of the civilization. If we are quite evolved as per our birth to really avail to that, then again another evolution happens, which we will find has nothing to do with the circumstances which we were born. So again, this in continuation of the discussion which we had in the previous paragraph here also, that all the small actions which we are doing in the present, that actually is creating a situation where we will be born, and then again we will have a tremendous jump from there to really that manifest all those faculties, the sanskaras, which we have gathered in this birth. Just to give a funny example, when we were brahmacharis in Belur Math, there was this Swami. We have heard that story from one of our acharya. A Swami in his old age was practicing this music. So every day he will take out his harmonium, and in the morning he will just make it a point to just play the saregama, just that the notes, nothing else. And the young brahmacharis, they out of curiosity asked him, Swami, if you are just playing the notes every day, when will you learn to play the song? And he told, in the next life. The idea is that you are developing a sanskar. When you develop a sanskar, you have heard of the prodigy? They are born in circumstances in the family where most probably the sanskara which he has developed in the previous birth is fructified in this birth. But sometimes even the family is not required. If you have proper yearning, you will go to those gurus. Your yearning will take you to those persons who are already adept in that, and immediately all the tendencies which you have, that will get the proper circumstances to flourish. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a wonderful example that a gardener, while gardening, accidentally just hit a hidden pipe with his axe. And there was a leakage, and the water started oozing out. No one was aware that there was a hidden pipe there. Just because of the striking of the axe, now suddenly there's a leakage and it is oozing out. Similarly, there are so many tendencies in our life. Maybe they are hidden, but as per the circumstances, if suddenly we get a favorable circumstances, that hidden sanskara suddenly finds a scope to just flourish, to manifest. And everyone gets amazed from where all those tendencies were hidden. Suddenly we find such an upsurge of all those tendencies. It happened in the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As a small child, if you read his life, you will find he was extremely mischievous. He had no spiritual inclination, and just the opposite. That those who used to perform some rituals by the bank of the Ganges, all the ladies, the widows, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a small child, the Nimai with his friends will go and just disturb them, make caricature of them. He was a very learned scholar, and he was quite proud of his scholarly achievements. And very interesting, the story goes like this, that his guru, Ishwar Puri, he was just roaming around, and just as a wandering monk, suddenly he came to Navadvip, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has spent his childhood days, where he was born. So he came to Navadvip, and he was in search of a Sanskrit scholar. Why? Because he has written the life of Krishna in Sanskrit, but he was a bit poor in grammar. So he was in search of a Sanskrit scholar who will check the grammatical mistakes and correct it. He wanted this Pandit. And now someone indicated that Nimai is this Sanskrit Pandit. You can just approach him. The moment Ishwar Puri approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that time he was Nimai, he immediately brushed off the idea. He told all those the life of Krishna, I am not going to read it. You just search someone else for that. Then Ishwar Puri, a very humble soul, just immediately told that I don't want you to go through the life. It is just the grammar. Will you please check it? It's just the grammar. For that, I'm just asking you. I don't want to influence you with the life of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu agreed. He started going through that work of Ishwar Puri. And by the time he just ended it, there was total overhauling of his personality. There's tremendous, there's what you say, there's flow of emotion. This upsurge of emotion. The devotion came suddenly. When his mother is saying that be responsible, give time for your family household works, for your own pathshala, the school which you are running. He told, I am trying my best, I cannot do. This emotion is so much spontaneous, so it is just so overflowing. It has eclipsed my sense, it has shadowed my sense of responsibility. So that's what Ramakrishna is saying. That suddenly, as if someone has strike the hidden pipe with the axe which was beneath the garden's bed. And suddenly there is a tremendous upsurge of all those tendencies. So here lies that heredity doesn't describe everything. There are so many tendencies which is there because of my past actions. The moment in this life we get a favorable circumstances, they just simply manifest, and we find the sudden upsurge of all those tendencies, and there's a total overhauling of the personality. And that's why the small actions in our life, again and again, to do the actions in a proper way, to try to develop the good tendencies is so important. At any point of time, it may appear that they are in no way helping me. I try to be focused on my spiritual practice. Thousands of distractions come and it's taken away. And I feel it's as if useless. My sanskaras are such, my tendencies are such that it doesn't allow me to continue to pursue with those high sublime thoughts, high sublime level of understanding. It doesn't allow me. And I get disheartened. The scripture, the Swamiji's words are important here. That like though we fail, again we should try. All these small attempts, again and again, is creating that good sanskara. How all those distractions, all those bad tendencies have become so spontaneous? Because of my wrong way of understanding, at some point of time in my past birth, I have done them repeatedly. Consciously, I have done them repeatedly. Any conscious action, when you do repeatedly, that enters the subconscious and now it becomes a spontaneous act. So now when now my way of understanding have changed because of the experiences of life, I became more matured. Now my conscious mind say that the things, the way by which I was following the course of my life is not proper. Let me try to change it. It's not easy. Though consciously I may feel that my way of life is not proper, I will find my old tendencies again and again is throwing off, is just pushing off all the good tendencies. But we should always remember the fact, all the tendencies which are spontaneous were actually thought of by me as good at certain point of time in the past, and I have done them repeatedly. That's how it has went to the subconscious. Now, in spite of my repeated failures, let me try to do it again and again. I may fail. Again, let me try. Let me not be disheartened by the repeated failures. Those failures are the pillar of success. Gradually, all those conscious attempts for the good deeds that go into the subconscious mind. That creates your subconscious psyche. And that again creates your destiny. By those tendencies will gravitate you to the situation, either in this birth or in the next birth, in a situation where you will find that all those samskaras are finding, they were proper field for sprouting. It get the proper fertile field for sprouting. Know it for certain, our tendencies takes us to the situation where all our tendencies will be fulfilled. No one can stop that. Just with a small incident, I will just conclude today's class. When I joined long back in Lucknow, I still remember. In Lucknow, when I joined there, Swami Sunishthananda ji, who is our president here in the Australian centers, he was the in charge of the Lucknow center, and someone known to him from the Balaram Bose family came to him, a couple with their son. The son was quite grown up. He was in his teens. They came with the son and they were very much bothered. The son has become drug addicted. And the son understood that his addiction is not good. The parent also understood. They came with the hope that if Swamiji keeps him in the ashram and keeps him engaged with all the ashram activities, most probably his tendency for having this for addiction, he can overcome. The Swamiji agreed. He was in ashram. At the beginning, we found for first few days he was quite okay. He was asked to help in the kitchen, in the shrine, with various activities. He was engaged. And one thing was made sure, he shouldn't go out of the ashram. Lucknow was a new place for him. He was from Calcutta. So he shouldn't go out of the ashram. The security guard was instructed that never allow this boy to move out of the campus. The campus itself was quite big. Whatever you want to do within the campus. Don't go out, stay here and be busy with the activities. For the first few days, even for a month, it was quite okay. Then suddenly we found in our rooms, which we never used to lock, because after all, inside there is no scope of any stealing. The things started missing. So we never understood what's happening. Then one day, in the morning, we found this charity box in the shrine is missing. Someone has totally plugged it off from the wall, unscrewed it from the wall. We were just amazed. We just thought the security was sleeping. We asked the security guard, had anyone entered there at night? Well, no, I haven't seen anyone. I was awake. We were still we were suspicious about the security. After a few days, again the second time it happened. The charity box was again unscrewed from the wall. We were really perplexed. What's happening? Now again, after about a month, the third time, at night the security woke us up, woke all the monks, and took us to the shrine, where he has caught that boy who was from Calcutta, who was drug addicted. He was caught. He was found to just remove that charity box. He has actually third time removed it and took that box behind the garage, ashram garage, and he was digging a hole in the ground behind the garage when he was caught. The security guard found it's not only this, the present security, this present charity box, even the last two charity boxes were there buried in the ground. So he was caught with all the three boxes. So now we were really perplexed. We were just taken aback. We asked him, what were you doing with all those things? And then the story he told is very interesting. He told that when he was staying in the ashram for the first few days, he was quite fine. He was totally new to that place. So there is no, and he was not going out. So there is no question of getting acquainted with the drug peddlers. Very interestingly, the drug peddlers came to the ashram. When they came, because the ashram is open to all, they came. For the first few days, they gave him free drugs. So hidingly, he started taking the drug inside the ashram. Not only that, after that, when they were asking for money, what to do? Then he started stealing all these things and removing the pranami box, the charity box. And now you find a very interesting thing. So he was kept in a very good environment. The parents were assured that he will not be allowed, he will not be exposed to the outer world. He will be in the ashram. He was given some good work to do. But see, the tendency is such, you are gravitated. The world will come in to fulfill your real sanskaras. You can never escape it. You will be gravitated to the circumstances. No one can stop you. So that's why how the character actually creates the force. We should be very aware. We should be aware of this fact. And in our day-to-day life, all the small activities we should do with that sense. That however we may fail, let us try again and again. That's why Swamiji used to say, very interesting thing, the 3P is the sanam bonam of the entire spirituality. What are the 3P? Purity, patience, perseverance. Try to be pure, repeated attempts to keep your mind pure, by pure acts, pure deeds, try to be pure. And it's not easy. The life, your own sanskar, your own past sanskaras will be challenging you. The outside world will be challenging you. You should have patience and persevere. Instead of repeated failures, just try do it again and again. And then you will find that a gradual transformation of the character has ensued. And that's the thing Swami is saying. So that's the thing which is more important, not just the biological situation, the biological factors which is responsible for your birth. All those sanskaras which are hidden within you, if they are having a good turn, they will take you to a much more higher evolution. And if they have a bad turn, in spite of your good birth, they will take you to lower and lower rungs of the spiritual evolution, of our human evolution. So that's the thing. It's not only the circumstances. That's why we find that in the same family, the 5 children and five fingers are totally different. It is the tendencies that actually, which we have developed via past karma, that actually determines our character, not the heredity alone. So with this, we stop our discussion. We will continue with the next paragraph in the next class. So just as is our course, for some 15 minutes, we will allot for some question answer session. If you have any question, you're most welcome to ask the question. So I'm unmuting you all.
Maharaj, Gopi here.
Yes, Gopi.
What happened with the boy? Did he survive or he was wasted?
Yeah. That boy, we had to call his parent, and he had it was we had to ask his parent to take him back for some other rehabilitation, some professional rehabilitation center, because we found in ashram it was very difficult that situation to continue. We never had that force that our volunteers, we never have that workforce to really deal with that situation. So we have to ask him. After that, we never kept much track. I'm not sure what happened to him in future. But yes, he was there for a few months, and at last, it was healthy.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Swamiji? Am I here?
Yeah, please, Nimabu.
Yeah, so you have mentioned few important points. One is the sanskara or tradition that we develop. Another is the tendency. And third one is the character.
Yeah.
So can you please give the distinction between the three things, and also the karma yoga that we are used to from the definition of Gita, that devotion, work with devotion is the karma. Every karma you do, it becomes the prayer, or justly mokhi is attached to the light. So all the work should go to that direction. That is called karma yoga, right? Yeah. So how you link those three things with this karma yoga?
Actually, we didn't wanted to enter into the terminology of the yoga. There are three definite distinct terms in yoga. One is sanskara, another is vasana, another is karmashaya. Very interesting. What is sanskara? Whatever we are doing is getting converted into sanskara. And that sanskaras, all those sanskaras are getting converted into vasana. This vasana is a very technical term. Now, in our psyche, there are so many vasanas. But in a particular situation, only a few of them manifest. Not all. Even in your life, you will find that when you are in your workplace, you are a total different person than when you are at your own house. You will find a particular type of tendency, particular type of emotions are naturally, spontaneously finding expression when you are in the workplace. When you come back, you are with a different type of emotions, different type of temperament that immediately comes out. So as per the situation, not all the vasanas manifest.
Only the line is breaking. So I think if every devotee can mute their microphone, then I think you can hear.
While giving answer, let me mute all, and then again I will unmute. Okay? Yeah. I think you can hear me now. So then I will unmute again. So what happens then? That a very funny example we give in our classes. That as per the evolution, most probably we were the grazing animal in some past birth. In Buddhism, they give this funny example. Now, in the present birth, so when in the past birth as a grazing animal, the grass, the green grass was our food. We really used to cherish it. Now, if that's the fact, then that is also our sanskara, that the liking for the green grass. Then why as a human being, but seeing the green grass, I have evolved as a human being, but the sanskara is still there. Why that seeing the green grass, I don't salivate? The reason is that there are certain vasanas which is not appropriate for the human birth. They will not manifest, they will just remain hidden, which is not because they are not appropriate for the human birth. They remain hidden. Only the vasanas which are appropriate for the human birth, they will fructify, they will just manifest. Another just a very common example you will find, a student in school is good in all the subjects. He has the liking for all the subjects, he or she has liking for all the subjects. Now because, now as in the 12th standard, now he has to select some particular course, some academic course. Just let us go back to the previous example. He or she chooses the medical course. Now what will happen? Though that she had the liking for social science, literature, all the subjects, they now will get hidden. Once she gets admitted to the medical college, only the biological science, liking for that will get the prominence. So now you will understand there's a difference between the sanskara, vasana and karmashaya. The karmashaya is the situation in which you are born, which is suitable for only particular vasanas. They will manifest. Others will remain hidden. So in the example of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a small child, he was yet to get exposure to that spiritual environment, spiritual guru, the spiritual ideas. He was quite happy with the scholarly achievements which he had. The moment that came, it was already there. The situation immediately enabled him to manifest, to expose all the thing that was hidden. So that's the thing. So if I try to have more and more good things, then that's in the last class also we told there are two things. One is kripa and another is purushakara. With the purushakara we can go on developing all these good tendencies. Kripa lies there. When we will have the Sadguru, we don't know. A proper guru who will suddenly open up all that box of good tendencies, and then suddenly we will find it is helping me to evolve spiritually very fast. So that's not in my hand. But this, to try it every time to develop all the good tendencies, that's in my hand. So these two things. So here also, that's why he gave that example, Buddha, Christ. The circumstance in which they were born, that cannot explain all the achievements they had in their life. There was something else, all the hidden tendencies which were already there, that got proper scope through all the spiritual teachers which they had, the spiritual heritage through which they were exposed. And that actually speaks of that huge leap from the family which they were born to the achievements which they had. So I think to a certain extent, the ideas I could just give you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Namaste, Swamiji. Bye bye.
Namaste. Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So we are ending the class then for today?
Yes.
I have a question, Swamiji.
Please.
Namaskar. I try to meditate in the morning, but I've been struggling with waking up.
To whom?
Oh, my name is Shruti. I'm joining. Yeah, this is the first time I'm joining.
Yeah.
I try to meditate in the morning. I try to wake up like around 5, but I struggle with that. And I try to listen to the beats of my body, like I feel the energy chakras vibrating, and I usually try to meditate on them. But then I feel that I can meditate for 10 minutes at the max, and then my mind is distracted. Can you tell me a good sadhana to control, to calm the mind, to focus the mind rather?
Yeah. One thing that there are 2-3 suggestions. This is a big journey. First is, don't at the very beginning think of meditating for 1 hour.
Swamiji, please mute.
Let me mute you all, and then don't think of meditating for 1 hour at the very beginning. Start with 15 minutes. Why I am saying it is almost, the mental drill is almost like the physical drill. When you go to the gym for the first time, just seeing the one who is quite adept, if you just think of just accomplishing the thing which the adept one is doing, if you try to overdo, you will just have cramps, and it will be detrimental for your physical growth. The same thing happens with the mind. You have to just fix your goals based on your present state of existence. That's one thing. The another thing is very important, that don't fight with your mind. Don't constantly go on instructing. At the very beginning, sit with that resolution that I will try to keep my mind calm. And you can just say to your own mind, oh mind, I am just appointing you as the gatekeeper. Just what's the duty of the gatekeeper? Only to allow the persons who are invited, not the person who are not invited. So just allow the invited, the good thoughts, and now leave the duty with the mind. Let him follow your instructions and do. Don't go on constantly instructing him. What happens in our meditation is like that. Is like something like this. Suppose you have hired a cab, and now you instruct the cab driver your destination. Now it is up to him to take you in whatever way he or she feels it will be will be good for you. Is some traffic, some roads are having more traffic. Sometimes it's better to go through the freeway. So that let him decide. Now, if you start instructing the cab driver, turn left, turn right, don't go this way, don't go that way. In 5 minutes, what he will do, he will stop the cab and politely ask you to get down of the car. That's what happens in our meditation. That we fight too much with the mind. Give the instruction at the beginning. Now let the mind do its own duty. How much it will get concentrated, how much it is distracted, don't bother it too much. At its own pace, let it go on with its practice. If you go on constantly instructing it, you will get agitated very quickly. In spite of the distraction, very mildly, without reprimanding it. Don't reprimand. You just say, okay, just like the way you say your child. Well, you got distracted, again come back. Instead of reprimanding, very politely, mildly try to bring it back again and again. So that way you will find the meditation is becoming more and more fruitful. So these are the few suggestions. Don't try to have a very big goal at the beginning. Don't fight too much. That after fixing the goal, now just take it. It's quite okay. The distractions are quite okay. If the distractions really stops, then immediately the spiritual evolution is going to happen. So that's it's something. It needs some time. You need not be frustrated with it. But again and again, in spite of take it that it's a very normal course, it's a normal state of mind. That again and again it will be distracted. Let me bring it back. Even if you don't see any visible change, know it for certain the change is happening. That example which we give, how the Shiva Linga is formed. A very coarse rock is lying in the river bed. Water is flowing over it. There is no visible change. But in hundreds of years, that coarse rock becomes so plain, so smooth. It becomes just like the Shiva Linga. It becomes something adorable. But at any point of time, there was no change visible. But the change was happening. It was totally imperceptible. So that's how the spiritual change happened. Don't think of a very quick fix remedy. The spiritual growth cannot be like your instant coffee. That's just something, it happens instantly. It's a very gradual progress. Patience and perseverance is required. You have to go on with it again and again, in spite of our repeated failures, that which we were saying today. And you know it for certain. The change is happening, though it may not be perceptible at any particular moment. But just the way that the rock gets smoothened in the course of time, our mind also gets calm in the course of time, our repeated practice. So that's what.
Thank you so much.
Okay, then, so we are ending.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Namaskar, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Bye.
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji. Namaste.
Thank you.